Welcome to Songwriter Speaks, presented by APRA AMCOS. My name's Taylah Strano, and we're joined by Grace Barbé and Jamie Searle. Hello, folks.
Hello.
Hello.
And Timothy Nelson as well.
Hey.
Thanks for being here. We're going to get stuck into a little bit of songwriting chat in a moment, but I just want to start by acknowledging that we are filming today on Wajak Noongar Boodja, and sovereignty was never ceded on these lands. And I just want to pay my respects to the elders past, present and emerging. I want to start this conversation by taking it all the way back. Let's talk about musical upbringing, because that obviously is where, for a lot of people, this journey of songwriting and making music and being creative starts. Grace, what was home like as a child in terms of your musical upbringing?
Well, I left the Seychelles when I was 6 years old, so I was quite young. And my mum came to study, came to university here. So I did my primary school years here. And that's what the love of music started in Perth, actually. And after her studies, and we went back to Seychelles, I was 12 years old and returned back to Australia and immigrated at the age of 16. But it was really, I had the best music teacher in primary school, and that's what ignited really the passion in me. And I was in school choir. So it started then. And going back to the Seychelles at the age of 12, that's when I was reconnecting with the culture and the music there. And when I returned to Perth at the age of 16, I was quite involved in the Seychelles community here in Perth. And I suppose that's where I really, I was quite passionate to learn how to play the bass guitar, sing the songs, the traditional dances and traditional songs. So it's a back and forth journey.
You've had that real lucky experience of having like an actual true blend of both cultures.
Yes.
And what about for you, Tim? Was it always a thing of having music playing at home when you were a kid? Did your parents make music?
Yeah, both my parents are musicians. Dad is a piano player, mum a singer. And I just grew up around gigs, mostly jazz gigs, but then also the cover bands that they would play in as well. It was sort of a mix of the two. I remember like my earliest memories would be mum playing like the Beatles and Deep Purple records around the house, and dad playing Herbie Hancock stuff. And there was a piano in the house, and there was always some kind of element of music going on, sing-alongs, or like they'd have their muso friends over for rehearsals and jams. And dad also, one of his jobs was he was the piano player at the Hilton Hotel. Okay. And so there were many late nights where I think I would have been like 5 or 6 years old. I used to wake up and get had this little chair, and I'd go and like sit at the front door until about 3 a.m. when he'd come home. But I just remember that life of always working at night and doing gigs, and there being access to instruments, some kind of primitive PA system, whatever you could lug around. It was just in my life from the start.
And so did you find that it was kind of encouraged, or not necessarily expected, but something that was always an option to pick up?
It was encouraged in the sense that piano lessons was one of my chores.
Okay.
But I think because I just took it for granted in the house, I didn't have any interest in being a musician really until I was in my late teens. I was fascinated with movies from a very young age, and my dad had to sit me down when I was about 6 years old and tell me they weren't real, because I was asking questions like, how do they know to start talking when I turned the TV on? Like it didn't make sense to me. And then when he told me that how films are made, pair that with, mum was quite a bit of a gadget obsessive, so she had cameras and she showed me how to like tape things off the TV on the VHS player and stuff. And so I became more and more obsessed with how movies are made. And I thought I was going to be a filmmaker up until I was I did go to TAFE and do film when I was 18 for about 6 months, but that was just as music was really kind of taking over.
What was the thing that made you sort of decide to swap paths and switch direction?
I'd started, I was kind of wanting to do both, but music as a passion and film as a career, I think, in my teens. So I saw a band play at my school when I was 15, and I knew I wanted to get a guitar and start. And I'd seen bands play at my school before, and obviously I'd seen my parents playing bands, but this one particular band, it was called The First Flight, which contained a guitar player called Tristan Sturmer, who you might know from I Said the Sparrow and stuff, but he was the year above me at our school. They had like 3 of their own songs, and everyone cheered really loudly at that fact. So that kind of made me want to get a guitar and write songs. But then in my mind, I was going to make movies. It wasn't until I was at TAFE kind of realizing that if you want to make films, it's kind of a massive team process and you need a lot of other people, and your initial vision in a lot of cases gets kind of diluted by the art by committee aspect of how it's done. And I was more interested in doing something where I could have an idea and then it come out that way instantly. And I felt I could do that with music.
You could just execute it on your own sort of terms.
Yes. And then also at TAFE, I had no money to pay for poster printing for a gig we had coming up, and it made more sense to just get a job to fund that. And before I knew it, I was just working to fund music, and film kind of just fell off the wayside.
So it was pretty much like a natural thing at that point then.
Yeah.
I want to talk about, you alluded there to these people in high school and having their own original songs. And let's talk about the first songs that you've written or attempted to write. Grace, do you remember the first time you sort of sat down and picked up a pen, or whatever sort of route you took to writing your first song?
I got to tell you the story about the first song I ever written. I think Jamie knows of this story. I was in primary school, yes, and in Seychelles. Was it before we left? Before I came to Australia, so quite young, and I wrote this sega, which is the rhythm from the islands back home, and I have to translate this to you. So I'm trying to think of the lyrics to translate it into English. So it's a song about me building this house so I can dance sega in it. And it just keeps repeating it over and over again. But the thing is, I was always drawn to melody. So for me, it wasn't really about the words. It was about the melody, which to this very day, I'm so drawn to melody. And without having that inspiration and having suddenly this melody pop up, then I'm unable to actually write. It's very interesting how people have different ways of writing songs. So, so I was probably about 6 years old. And I wrote this song, and it had this beautiful melody. And I think I told you this, Jamie. I said, I've got to re-record this song now as an adult of this little girl, my first song that I ever written.
Has it come to fruition?
Not yet.
You haven't
It's
recorded
got 3
this yet?
verses, and all 3 verses repeat itself.
That's really impressive for like a 6-year-old still. Jamie, I can see the creative cogs are just turning away in your brain.
Why not? Let's do it.
I look forward to hearing it on the next album. What about for you, Tim? When was the first time that you go, hey, that's a song that I kind of wrote?
There were many failed attempts at writing different kinds of music. There was an aborted hip-hop period very early on when I was about 12, and then there was, which funnily enough has come back in later life, and then it was a lot of emo pop punk kind of attempts they just fitted the chords that I was learning.
Was it reflective of your age and what you were listening to as well?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I was already into a lot of bands like Green Day and stuff, and it was 2005 when I got a guitar. And American Idiot came out, and you can play, if you figure out the power chord shape, both of them, whether they start on the E string or the A string, but it's the same thing. You can play that entire record. You just got to find where they go.
Sure.
And I used to think that you could play any song like that. So I was playing a lot of songs wrong for a long time as well. So yeah, it was a lot of that. But I think I had a song called Overcast Day, which I wrote, I was 14, and it just sounded like me trying to do the Shins, which is still a thing. But I think that's when I thought, oh, that's something good. I put it up on MySpace, and some friends told me that it moved them. I thought, hey,
that's high praise from MySpace community, though.
Well, I wouldn't say the MySpace community. They were just people right next to me who apparently we couldn't have this moment.
If they were in your top fans, that is the MySpace community, 100%.
Yeah. I think that was it, and that was around the time that someone had, I think, incorrectly spread the rumor that the Arctic Monkeys had gotten big by just giving away their music for free.
Okay.
That was the paraphrased rumor of whatever actually happened. But there was this kind of DIY inspiration that came with that, I thought, where you could just start making tunes some way and put them up on MySpace, and then things would happen. And then it was like from there, it was a combination of trying to write better songs, but also on the back foot a bit, trying to get a gig and trying to like do stuff.
That whole like how you sort of navigate music industry and how you form a career out of it is like a completely other conversation we could have, and maybe we will one day. But what was sort of like, what was going through your mind when you wrote that first song? Was it something that you did just sit down and do? Is it something, I mean, I don't imagine it was a voice memo kind of thing that was going on, which is what a lot of people do now.
Didn't have the technology for a voice memo. The old Nokia 3315 couldn't really handle that. It was a case of just noodling around on the guitar. I had some chords, and I think, and I honestly can't remember if words or melody came first. Generally, melody with fake words happens first, and they come out sounding like these weird vowel movements, and then whatever words they sound like become the words.
Yeah.
And then I try and make sense of them.
I totally resonate with what you're saying in regards to songwriting. That's me. I gibberish.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then the vowel sound, and I try and find that word that would fit.
Yeah.
Because the phrasing, the sound of it is so important that I can just come up with a word.
Yeah.
Can back you into a corner though, don't you think? You have
kind of
this
does.
sound and you never find the actual word.
It kind of does. It makes you a bit lazy, I think, sometimes to kind of develop your writing and your vocabulary, and you can get stuck in that process, which I think can hold you back a bit.
How do you sort of bring yourself out of that process when you're doing a melody kind of thing? Do you record yourself doing it to listen back and
Yes,
reflect?
I've got a million voice memos.
Yeah.
I've actually got to back it up. The last, I'm scared of losing all of them because there's some magic. There's some magic there. I have to get into the habit of backing them up. Sorry, what was your question again? Because I'm thinking of backing up now.
You're worried about it now.
Yeah.
You'll go home and do it. How do you sort of, when you are listening back to these melodies and you maybe can't find those words or the lyric doesn't come straight away, how do you actually push through that and eventually do find the lyrics to a song?
Well, I suppose now, maturing as a songwriter, as a performer, and looking at what resources do I have out there to find to help me develop my songwriting skills. So I've got a songwriting book now, and I think it is so important for artists, especially as you're maturing through your career. You can't just get too lazy with it, and I think it is a skill, a gift that we have, and it's important to develop it. So I look at where can I access resources, or maybe I can approach Jamie and go, what word do you think could fit in there? And Jamie has a very interesting approach, and that's why we work well together. We're not always similar in our thinking, in a way of approaching. So he's a fantastic person to approach when it comes to our songwriting methods, and
Yeah, I want to talk about the collaboration between the two of you folks in a moment, but as part of this series, we're lucky enough to have some live music, and you both are all very graciously agreed to do so. Tim, do you want to start us off with a live tune?
Sure, why not?
Which one do you want to play first?
I'll play Oh My.
All
How's
right.
that?
Sounds good.
All right. First day back, we were under attack, walking a familiar trail. Yeah, we were under the illusion our love was too big to fail. And we tried to rebuild what we tore apart, and it came as no surprise that all for the sake of total control, one had to compromise.
Now I'm so elevated, thinking of your middle name. The point is now we made it. Are we gonna be just the same? You got me acting like, oh my, oh my. Another reason not to touch the sky. Oh my, oh my. Another chance to give up on your plans and die. Time had moved on and we both condemned our true desires and dreams to be swept under the rug again, just to keep the peace. And we fell back in line with the same old crowd and smiled when it counted, but deep down we knew it was all for show and there ain't no way around it. Well, I'm so elevated, thinking of your middle name. The point is now we made it. Are we gonna be just the same? You got me acting like, oh my, oh my. Another reason not to touch the sky. Oh my, oh my. Another chance to destroy your plans and oh my, oh my. Another reason not to try. Oh my, oh my. Another chance to give up on your plans and die. Whoa, running backwards, darling. There is a loneliness inside. I'm hoping to turn away, but I can't take it back. All the lies and lies. I know I have to be the fool, girl, you ought to cast aside. Yes, I do. I'm so elevated, thinking of your middle name. The point is now we made it. Are we gonna be just the same? You got me acting like, oh my, oh my. Another reason not to touch the sky. Oh my, oh my. Another chance to give up on your plans and oh my, oh my. Another reason not to try. Oh my, oh my. Another chance to destroy your plans and die. Oh my. Oh my, oh my. Oh my, oh my. Oh my, oh my.
Feels weird to clap, but like I want to clap.
You should definitely all clap, especially you.
Crew included.
Yeah.
Thank you for doing that.
No worries.
Let's talk about that song. I mean, we're here to talk about songwriting.
Yeah.
Tell us the process behind Oh My.
So the process behind that, again, I don't really remember exactly where or when I wrote the song. I'm pretty sure it was a case of a lot of my songs hang around for many years before I record them because I'm lazy. And so thinking back to when I wrote it, I reckon it was most likely just a case of I'll often have a chord progression and muck around with fitting melodies into it. So it was just this. Which could have been, anything, just me thinking it'd be like a cool little Neil Young or a Kurt Weill kind of thing to do. And then it would have been a case of, I think Oh My would have just slipped out and then I would have had to think of why am I saying oh my. And then the whole thing kind of just sort of trudges along in that kind of Neil Young sort of, that kind of thing. Like stepping down to the minor sevenths is usually the choice of which chords go where. I reckon it's very similar to, I don't know if you know anyone that incessantly keeps rearranging the furniture in their room or their home a lot. Like I had a housemate that did that once. Yeah, every time you come home, the living room would be completely different. But there's a kind of a relationship you have with all the pieces of furniture and your lamps and how they kind of work together. And I like that chair looks good next to that thing. And then you start creating pairs in your mind of, well, that with that other pair of, lamps and pot plants and things. Now they have a relationship together. So that is exactly how I feel about chords and melody notes.
Okay.
So there's an amount of chords I have at my disposal, and there's only really 12 notes till you get into the non-Western
So you're working sort of
scales. But for dopes like me, there's only 12 notes, and it's just constantly rearranging my room. So they're all chords at one point I've used in a song before, but it's just placing them in a new order that kind of inspires a different melody and puts me in a certain place.
When do you know when to stop rearranging and go, that's the one?
Oh, I never know when to stop.
Is that why they take a couple of years
I think there's a certain point where you're playing and then you know that there's a song there. Like, oh, that's the tune, which is, I don't know if you find this. I find I'm always trying to show to a close group of friends that at least songs that I'm working on. And in my head, I can hear the whole thing, but you forget that other people can't hear what you can hear. But listen to it, it's brilliant. They're like, but what? There's nothing happening. Yeah, but
You're
it's gonna.
Just saying gibberish.
Something's gonna happen. It's gonna be great. So yeah, knowing when to stop, that is the hard part. But not as hard as writing the second verse.
Oh, thank you.
Nothing's as hard as
Somebody
writing
else
the second
shares this.
So you've
my
like gone
gosh, I was
through-
the only one.
So you've gone through like figuring out a melody and you've got a chorus or a hook or maybe a first verse down. Is that where you also get stuck, Grace?
Absolutely. I mean, or I get half of the second verse. Okay. And you get to that verse of, you can either be lazy finishing it off, or you could put a bit of an effort and create like a great song, The whole process is quite important, and you can't work halfway through and create something magical halfway through and then it fizzles out.
How frustrating to know like this is going to be so good, and I've just run out of steam for this day and
Happens a lot to
I'll
me
revisit.
with Songwriting, yeah.
And so is that where you bring people like Jamie in?
Absolutely.
So how does that work between the two of you? You collaborate on the Grace Barbé project. Where does the relationship work out in terms of you're writing an album?
Do you want to?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Well, I was just saying before, we kind of have two main ways of writing songs. One way is that Grace will basically write a song and I'll help her arrange it, finish it off, just sort of, finish it off basically. The other way is I'll often write like a beat, backing track, a beat, and she'll write a song over it. So I'll do that on my computer or whatever. And then we'll sort of, then once she's written something, we'll arrange it. And then we actually, the band records it, so you wouldn't really know that it started life on my computer.
Does that come together quite quickly, or is that in itself quite a process?
Depends on the song, I think.
Once we get started,
because
it
for me, I
happens.
suppose with my songwriting, like I said, I'm very drawn to melody. So it's the melody that inspires me to write a song. And I'll gibberish over. It's so easy for me to come up with a verse, a chorus, a bridge. So easy. Second verse, not so. Hook, easy. So it's almost there in terms of the structure. And now Jamie comes along and goes, well, maybe we should change the chords in this section, make it a bit more interesting, and help with the arrangement.
Put the finishing pretty touches
Yes.
on it.
Yeah.
When you're writing these lyrics, are they something that you've sort of had in the back of your mind and go, oh, hey, I want to write a song about this thing that happened? Or you'll see something and that's where it comes from.
Most of my songs that I write are not in that, in that way.
Like a literal sense.
Yes, exactly. So again, melody comes and I hum away, and then I gibberish, and then vowel sounds and the phrasing, and then I pick up words, and those keywords start popping up like rice bubbles, pop, 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 And I thought, wow, I could grab this word, and form, this verse. And I have to find a way to create a story around this. A lot of the way that I write is like this.
And then for you, Tim, is that a similar sort of thing, or do you have particular characters that you write for?
Yeah, I think it's generally that starts with a melody. Words kind of come out from a purely random place, but they're words that seem to feel good depending on the rhythm and the melody you're singing. And if I just wish I had a better speed dial vocabulary sometimes, because you might only get like 4 or 5 words out. Whereas rappers are writing a phone book every song.
I know.
I'm so jealous. I only have to write like 2 verses and a chorus. I like to write bridges, but that's me working overtime. You don't have to. It's not the job description, So it's but I guess there's more importance on what those words are maybe. But yeah, and you get locked into how words sound sometimes, or how the pretend word sounds. You're trying to find a word that fits that. And sometimes the second verse thing comes up just because by the time you get a verse and a pre-chorus and a hook, you're already kind of patting yourself on the back and you're pretty much ready to clock off. So it's just grind work finishing the next bit, because it's not new, really. Yeah. Lyrically, it's new, but it's the same section again. This is if you're writing like a standard pop song. Yeah. So but in that bubble of inspiration where it's all just falling out of the sky, you really need to sit down and try and finish as much as possible. Like push yourself then, because it'll be even harder to finish it later.
When you do have like the tap on and the words and the lyrics are just sort of coming, is it like a quick write everything down that I can remember, or do you take your time and slowly arrange things?
I wish I had a straightforward process that I could tell you.
Sure.
It's usually me panicking. How am I going to write this? If it's all flowing into my head, I'll sing it into the phone. Sometimes when I sing it out loud, it ruins it. Mainly because once you hear it, you realize it's not that good. So I find myself singing it in my head and not out loud, and enjoying what I think is magic before I burst that bubble. So that some songs live up there before they ever come out of here for a long time. Then eventually I sing them into a phone.
Yeah.
Now I sing them into a phone, which is interesting, because then I think about I would have written an album and a half's worth of songs before I even had a voice memo app on my phone. So that would have been just memory.
Yeah. One of the many things that sort of changes that songwriting process.
Yeah. The voice memo thing comes in handy. You're always pretending to take a phone call in like a nightclub, but you're just singing over the band's song.
Is that a thing that's really happened in like the middle of a gig or a? That's
what I do. I don't know about anyone else.
Yeah.
But if you see me take a call in a nightclub, you just think, man, that man's
choosing yourself,
writing hits, mate.
He's busy.
Not bloody taking any calls.
I'm going to have to go back and listen to the second verse of like every single one of your songs now.
Please don't.
And just go, that was his down day.
It's hard to do, mainly because you think you've gotten everything out you need to say on a subject already. Again, because you can hear things that other people can't.
I think a great tip with second verse now that I find is a variation of the first verse. So you don't have to write a completely new verse. You can kind of repeat that first line of the first verse and then have a variation of it.
It's working smarter, not harder.
You can. Some songs allow you to do less work.
I like how you said allow. I think that's a really important word.
Totally. Yeah. Because I tried. Any cop out you could think of, I've tried it, and when it's bleedingly obvious. When even if someone has to tell you when you play them a demo, you know that you can't just repeat that lyric a seventh time. You need to write something else there. So you got to do it. Yeah.
Tim, you talked a little bit before about writing like a standard pop song verse, maybe something else.
Yeah.
All three of you play in various different outfits. Tell me what the difference is in approaching songwriting, say, for Timothy Nelson or Endorphins, as opposed to maybe the Kill Devil Hills.
Well, the Kill Devil Hills is really Brendan brings in a song with his own sense of timing and melody, and then we just start making noise around him, and it's like tuning into an analog station. Eventually there's clarity, but I would say the early run-throughs of songs just sound almost disastrous for sometimes years, and we eventually get out of the woods. That's the process with every song. It starts as in that band. It is just, you know, a lot of people hanging on for dear life until something generally quite beautiful comes out.
Yeah, you throw it at the wall till you see what sticks.
It's really about trusting. Brendan's a very different songwriter to anyone I've ever known.
Okay.
He's probably, him and Gareth Lydiard came up together, and they're similar, I would say, especially as guitar players as well. And he's also, actually, I went and saw his Local Heroes interview thing with Bob Gordon, and one thing anyone that was there took away from is that Brendan doesn't really consider himself a musician or even really like music. So he writes songs, but he's more of I think he's more of just an artist and a writer and a poet.
Which is exactly how I would describe Gareth Lydiard as well.
Yeah, exactly. And Nick Cave as well, who's not particularly a melodic songwriter, but approaches the whole thing more like an author. So you're dealing with a different kettle of fish. And there's not really that band has nothing to do with we need a pre-chorus or we need to repeat this. We do those things if they're necessary, but I think like that band exists outside of the norms of, you know, what pop is trying to do.
Sure.
I like pop songs just because, a close friend of me once just said, I'm so mental up here, I'm just trying to major chord my way out of my depression. So I'm just like, when I listen to like Wilco, someone told me once they thought Wilco sounded too happy, but I just hear tremendous sadness in that music. But it's quite happy melodies, I think. So I find mournful music is not all that sad. Sometimes it's almost too on the nose. I usually see the sadness in songs that sound happy, but there's clearly something else between the cracks. So So there's
It's almost a sign of a good pop song as well, as something that appears like straight on very happy and bright and upbeat, but is actually quite devastating.
What do you think? Like, Where Did Our Love Go? That Motown song. That's a very sad song. But if it comes on a wedding, no one's crying. Well, depends on the time.
Depends on the wedding.
Yeah, it depends on the wedding, you know. And I find most, you know, disco songs are quite sad. And, but that's it, isn't it?
What about for you, Grace? You are playing in, like I said, a couple of outfits and yourself as well, Jamie.
Yep.
How do you approach them in different ways, or is it just the same sort of idea?
It's really interesting because there's the Grace Barbé Afro Creole outfit, which is, you know, rhythmic and, you know, lots of rhythms. Indian Ocean Island rhythms, quite complex rhythms happening there, and pop sensibilities. I'm a major fan of pop music. I'm from the 80s, and I was born in the 80s. And then with the Crucial Rockers, which is our reggae band, it's slightly different approach. I mean, I suppose I am who I am as an artist, and that's still going to spill through in the different groups that we're in, as a singer and as a songwriter. But with the reggae band, sing English songs, while with the Grace Barbé, I'm singing mainly Creole, the Creole language. So, and with the reggae band, we're performing reggae music, we're writing reggae. So it's a different approach. And I'm a huge fan of reggae music. So it's about listening to that genre and getting accustomed to that genre. I grew up with that genre.
The actual songwriting is not necessarily... The songwriting itself is not necessarily different. It's more just the music we put behind it.
And you get to flex out, Jamie, because you get to arrange quite a few different things with these different outfits.
Yeah, exactly. It's great.
Let's talk a little bit about the language. That's something that I find really interesting, and I'm really grateful that you are able to switch between English and the Seychelles and Creole. How important is that for you? Why is that something that you feel like you need to do in your music?
Well, Creole is my mother tongue, and it's my mother tongue, and I speak it every day at home with my mom and with the community. And English is in Seychelles we speak 3 languages, so English, French, and Creole, and they're all our official languages. So switching between the 3 is quite easy when you're speaking to people, especially in the community. with songwriting, this is really interesting. And it's not like I'm going to write a song in Creole now today, you know, and I come up with a melody and go, this is going to be an English song. It doesn't happen like that at all. So for me, it's a natural process where I come up with a melody, with a rhythm, or I get inspired, and whatever comes out of my mouth is whatever it's going to be. So I think the melody plays a big role because I'm tuning in. I'm going inward. I'm tuning in, going, this is going to be, you know, a Creole song. I mean, the words in Creole start coming out, so it's going to be a Creole song. I find that switching, for example, we're in the process of translating some of our songs into English that we've already released and re-recording them in English. And I find that so challenging.
Yeah.
And it's almost like I have to rewrite the songs, not moving away from the message that I'm conveying in the song, but staying true to the message, but writing it completely different because I have to use different set of words and phrasing and
it doesn't
intonation.
Always translate the same way.
Yes.
What does it mean to be able to share sort of that language and that culture and context with English-speaking audiences? Because, I mean, in Perth, there's a Seychelles community, but it's predominantly people who just speak English.
Yeah, I think the music speaks for itself. It is very important for me to be writing and performing in language because it's part of who I am. It's my culture. I'm quite proud of it. I love the sound of the Creole, Seychelles Creole language. But when we perform, I feel it doesn't matter what language I'm singing in, the people really connect. We connect with our audience, and the music speaks for itself because it's not just about language. It's everything that is the song, that makes the song.
I feel like the most recent album that you put out, Femme Woman, that was a prime example of that. I had no idea what you were saying half the time, but it didn't really matter because it just was the melody and the way that the music sort of came across. It's like, I understand, although I don't understand.
But music is a language in itself. So if you can connect with this song or the language and you feel it and you can move with it and it does something to you, I think that's a great thing.
It's like the whole point of the job.
Yes.
Do you want to show us some of that now? You are going to play one of the songs in Creole.
Yes.
Tell us about this one.
The song's called Pêcheur, which means fisherman, or pêcheur in French. And I'm from the island, so the island's full of fishermen. Yeah, we're surrounded by the ocean, and our main meat is fish. So a lot of men from the islands, you know, once in their lifetime they were fishermen. You know, my father used to be a fisherman. My grandfather used to be a fisherman. So this song is about the women on the land waiting for their partners to come back, going out fishing, because they're out there fishing to make a living, to provide for their family, and it can be quite dangerous as a profession, you know, going out there in the rough seas sometimes. And a lot of the times they don't come back, or they go for a long period of time. And the women are waiting on land with the kids, waiting patiently for their loved one to come back. So it's a beautiful love song in a way, because it's a reflection of the women waiting on the land, waiting for their loved one to come back so they can dance again, they can make love again, you know. It's quite romantic. But there's a sadness to it because sometimes they don't come back.
All right. When you're ready.
Okay. La da 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 da, la 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 da da. Mon mari est pêcheur sur la ville ou la mer. Mon père assisé, mon espéré pour y retourner. Mon mari est pêcheur sur la ville ou la mer. Mon pas besoin pleurer, comment qu'on est, il compte en moi. Oh, mon mari aux hommes, ah, mon mari aux hommes, mais trop bas pour les temps, mon père espérait pour danser avec moi. Oh, mon mari aux hommes, ah, mon mari aux hommes, mais n'est que la la fin dis-moi pour gagner sens pour caresse-moi. Mon mari épaisseur, sans la ville, la mer. Sa zone peut débrouiller, y'a périté pour son la monnaie. Mon mari épaisseur, mon enfant, mon créole, mon fier. Mon pas besoin inquiet, comme on connaît, il compte en moi. Oh, mon mari aux hommes, ah, mon mari aux hommes. Mais trop beaucoup les temps, mon peut espérer pour danser avec moi. Oh, mon mari aux hommes, ah, mon mari aux hommes. Mais n'est que la fin, dis-moi, pour gagner sens, pour caresse-moi. Ça la vie, ça fait autres. Pour une femme tout seul. Ça la vie, il tant des autres. Là mon voix bonnes hommes créoles. A voix jolie, péco avec moi. Mon ville et d'eau, mon sel et cœur. Mon montre la couée, m'espère la fin du mois. Oh, mon mari aux hommes, ah, mon mari aux hommes. Mais trop beaucoup les temps, mon père espérait pour danser avec moi. Oh, mon mari aux hommes, ah, mon mari aux hommes. Mais n'est que la fin du mois, pour gagner sens, pour caresse-moi. Oh, mon mari aux hommes, ah, mon mari aux hommes. Mais trop beaucoup les temps, mon père espérait pour danser avec moi. Oh, mon mari aux hommes, ah, mon mari aux hommes. Mais n'est que la fin du mois, pour gagner sens, pour caresse-moi. La da 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 da, la 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 da 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 da, la 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 da. Thank you, Messi.
Thank you for that. We're halfway through for the Songwriter Speaks for APRA AMCOS. It's like I'm talking on radio. That's how we say we're halfway through a show. I want to talk about something now that I assume a lot of people will face at one point in their life, not just in songwriting and in music, but in sort of any sort of endeavour, and that's doubt. Is that something that you have come across in sort of when you're writing a song or when you're putting new music together, Tim?
Yeah, all the time. I think it's usually if you can't figure out how to complete the puzzle of a song, or in the process of, the doubt really comes in when you're putting together an album, and then you're in the mixing process, and then I just get all these voices in my head just going, maybe there's too many instruments in this. Maybe we should start again. Maybe we should retrack all the vocals. Maybe that lyric's too on the nose. And then it's usually you need a support network of musician friends that you respect that will say, it's good. That'll do, pig. You know?
That'll do. It's good enough.
Yeah.
Is that the only sort of way that you can overcome those kinds of doubts?
I'm just an overthinker in general. So I would say it's constructive doubt, you know. But, the aim is always to get over the doubt, to finish the song. But it's always there. I don't know, do you have that?
I do. When you started to talking about in the studio, the recording process, the mixing, for me, I love when I know that we've got an album worth of songs and it's kind of coming together and I'm excited. When I get to the studio and I have to lay down my vocals, that's when my doubt creeps up. Self-doubt, and you have to deliver, because we've written awesome songs, I believe, and we have, this catalog of songs we're going to lay down. It's going to be a great album. I'm working with some amazing people, and now I have to lay the vocals down. So that for me is the main issue, getting into the studio and knowing that I have to nail it.
It's like all the other elements of making the music. It's not necessarily writing the song or like performing it. It's everything else that happens.
The doubt when you're writing is, I think, if you haven't found that one, that flagpole, that one thing that makes you know that there's a good song there. If I haven't got a good chorus, then there's doubt. But if I know that there is a hook, there's something where this song, it does a thing where I'm like, that's going to be good, then there's no doubt. There's confusion and impatience, and
that's where the rearranging
and,
happens then.
Well, yeah, we're just trying to come up with something.
Sure.
If you've only got a chorus and you're like, look, isn't this enough? But now you're going to write a whole song around it, buddy.
You're clutching.
So, that's where the doubt comes in.
You mentioned there, though, having sort of like a support network or having people around you.
Yeah.
When you are like writing new music, or when you have completed an album or an EP or just a single, do you show it to people pretty quickly after it's done?
I do at the moment, yeah. I don't know if I always did, but there's generally, I'm going through a period now where I'm trying to focus what kind of songs I'm writing more than before, just because I'll write pairs of songs that all could be on 17 different albums. So I kind of like sort of window shopping in genres. So it's, I'm just trying to stay on track with for example, I'm literally in the midst of finishing 2 records at the same time.
For the same project?
No, there's a solo album nearly done, and there's a new Endorphins EP that's nearly done.
Okay.
And they're both kind of in the mixing stage, and then the swapping between those 2 projects, jumping between them, doing a lot of it with the same guy as well.
Okay.
So it's like, which session do we bring up today, kind of thing. And there's an identity crisis in that, but then there's also, like for me, it makes sense that one would want to make a lot of different kinds of songs, because we all listen to quite different kinds of music. But then there's a difference between what you want to write and then when you start trying to put things out into the world, and then conversations about how relevant something is and who you're actually trying to push this towards.
I feel you, Tim. Yeah. I mean, we've got the great Grace Barbé. There's always going to be Grace Barbé songs coming out, So switching from that to Crucial Rockers, want to release Crucial Rockers, and I've got this pop album in my head. I've already written, recorded, and released already in my head.
You're halfway there,
and with a different name, like a quirky, cute kind of name. I'm going through some cute little names as, my
Jamie,
other
you're
personality.
going, oh God, this is another thing we've got to do.
And then there's a solo album, the acoustic album. Oh, there's just so much to do in little time.
I guess you're lucky in the sense that because you collaborate so closely on both of those outfits, that's kind of instant feedback and instant sort of sharing with someone.
It is. I mean, Jamie and I have been working together for close to 20 years now. And we understand each other's way of working, and Jamie understands me and I understand him, our process. And I trust him completely with my music development, producing, arranging. Otherwise, I would have worked with somebody else by now. But Jamie's got this fantastic catalog of musical knowledge that he brings out, and I love it. Like when we were recording the second album, Welele, and we were listening to a lot of Afrobeat music, and Jamie's got a great collection of Afrobeat music, and just spread out on Dan Carroll's desk. It's like this is the direction of Welele, and it's fantastic.
That's high praise, Jamie.
Thank you very much.
What about when you've written something, it's recorded and done, and then it's actually out in the world? Is there doubt then? And if so, how do you push through that?
It's too late for doubt.
There's a
regret, maybe.
There's a couple of songs on the second album and the last album that I thought, ooh, which instrument that I thought should have come up a bit in the mix. It's mainly that for me. Yeah.
Kind of thing.
It's just a mixing thing, but very small, very minor.
If it's actually made it out there into the world by that point, I'm proud of it. So it's usually not necessarily doubt in myself. It's more a very arrogant perception that it's everyone else that's wrong.
Okay. I was just going to go on this feel about how feedback is so important and we should really harness that. But
What went wrong there? Spotify must have
The
crashed
ego
overnight.
just-
Yeah.
Bandcamp Daily aren't getting my emails.
Yeah, what's going on there? But then I'm already on to the next thing in my mind as well. But I'm more about just putting stuff out. Some people rather not put out music all that often or wait until they really feel like they've got it right. But
So when in that whole sort of process from starting a song with the melody and making it and recording and then it's out, when in that process do you actually get your enjoyment out of it? Like what's the best part of it for you?
the best part of it is when everything's written, there's no work left for me to do on it. And we're in the studio and we're just kind of having fun with the song. That bit's fun. The initial process of the song kind of just falling in your lap, if you're lucky enough for that to happen, that bit's fun. It takes work to finish a song, and as a result, I have more unfinished songs than I have finished songs. And some songs beg to be finished before others, and others just need to wait their turn, I think. The most fun is, and then the mixing part's pretty fun if I'm there in the room and you're just kind of playing with sounds and if at any point you feel like you're just playing and having fun with music, that is obviously the fun part. But the whole process is not always fun, I think.
What about for you, Grace? I imagine
It's a terrible note to end on.
I would have thought for you it would be the performance aspect of when you actually get to play it live and share
I
it.
do
But correct me
love
if I'm
it.
wrong.
I do love it when we're performing because it's in that moment, and I could have different moods in any kind of gig, and I'm connecting with the audience. I'm not always repeating this. I'm not repeating the same thing over and over. It is in the moment, and whatever I feel I need to say, I say it. We do have a process when it comes to recording, and the last couple of albums have been 4 years in between. Between the first album and second album, 4 years. Second album and third album, about 6 years. And I said, I'm never going to do this again. I'm never going to go through that process of waiting that long. Now I'm in I'm feeling like we should just pump out singles and, just put the songs out there and just not let it get cobwebs.
Just don't let it ruminate for too long or percolate. Just
Exactly.
put it out.
Get it out
Get it
Don't
ready
be
to
afraid,
go.
because we have held back and waited till it was right, in the right moment. It was the right mix. It needs to be the right. But now I'm not afraid to get a little bit loose with that process.
Yeah.
You know?
I think we were we wanted it to be so perfect.
Yeah.
Especially the first album. And the only way I got through that was just understanding that each recording is just a document of where you are at that time. It can't be perfect. You just have to let it go and move on to the next one.
Yeah.
I think the status anxiety of stream counts has dramatically changed how you feel about stuff once it's out.
Yeah.
Because if you think about prior to digital streaming, you either get on an actual chart or you don't, and then if you don't, it's just that kind of, you got CDs kind of circulating. You generally only hear the good feedback.
Yep.
Someone heard your song on RTR, yeah, that was good. If they didn't like it, they generally keep it to themselves. So it's just kind of this sort of, there was a mystery of how it's going, and then you never really, doesn't bother you as much. It shouldn't bother you at all, but it's kind of hard to not let it bother you when now they put so much importance on how many streams you've
The
got on the
numbers.
song.
Yeah.
And then people constantly reminding you that that's important. So that's annoying. It's, I have Spotify and Apple Music, and a big difference in, not to just promote companies here, by the way, but Apple Music doesn't give you the numbers.
Sure.
So you're not, and even when you're listening to other people's music, you can see which songs are more popular than others, but there's a vagueness to it. and there's less of like the optics kind of getting in the way of your opinion or your willingness to listen to something. Whereas, and then the one where you get all these numbers thrown at you, like this one has this exact amount more streams than this song. I don't know if it's a healthy. I don't think it's a healthy thing to wedge in between you and the music, but it's an unfortunate reality.
And that's from a creative and a consumer standpoint, then, isn't it?
Yeah. But I mean, everyone's in marketing now. Everyone's an advertiser. Everyone's an influencer.
Sure.
You know, so we're all just everything. Everyone's just marketing everything at this point. But
A song that you can stream is one that you're going to play for us now. I couldn't think of a better segue. There were a couple of opportunities over here.
That's pretty good.
And then we got into this thing about Apple Music, and we just needed to move on. So a song you can stream, I don't know if it's on Apple Music, it's around for you to buy
everywhere,
though, is Biting Time.
yeah,
You're going to play it for us now, and then we'll have a chat about it.
yeah, for sure. All right. Here we go. One, two.
Major damage on the passenger side. Failure to communicate over time. And it's the quiet minds that always want to go out with the loudest noise. She was your guiding light, but now it's only darkness you're heading toward. Brake lines will warn you with a sign on the dashboard. The save times are all you leave behind when you go for it. And it's the hardest thing to look into her eyes while you're pushing away. Somewhere between the lines is just another excuse for you to say you've always been alone. You've been biding time, waiting on this line. Silent thought pulsing through your veins loud as hell. And times we fought only ever helped you to convince yourself that in the hardest times there's only ever one answer you're willing to hear. She was your guiding light, now you're sinking back into your greatest fear. And the fact is you're alone. Well, you've been biding time, waiting on this line. Yeah, you've been biding time, Major damage on the passenger side. Failure to communicate over time. You've been biding time. Yeah, you've been biding time.
Thank you.
Nice vocal register there, transitioning from head voice down to chest voice and up again. That's awesome.
That's all. Oh, that's like a
It's good
sports
control.
commentary like review. Of
I'm
and he's gone into falsetto here. Interesting choice.
I'm really glad that you actually said that, because the last thing that I want to talk about before we sign off is the fact that you're both educators, that you teach music, you teach people about it, how to do it, all the ins and outs. Grace, with your students, what's sort of like the one fundamental rule that you wish to impart on them?
Oh, always enjoy what you're doing. You have to enjoy the process. What's the point of, doing some music lessons because parents force you to do it, And my job, I suppose, as an educator, music educator, is to find a way to motivate and inspire the child, especially if I feel they're talented. They could be talented, gifted, but bored. And find a way to motivate or structure my lessons in a way that it could keep them interested. I think it's important as an educator to find different strategies to work with, because kids they're all different. They've got different attention spans, different talents. So I don't like to give up on students so easily. Mm-hmm. So I find that, no, you can do it. Or if they love singing, I just want to sing, I just want to do this. I just want to sing. I said, well, if that's what you love to do, then just do it. They say, well, this teacher is not, or my previous music teacher is not so great, and I wasn't enjoying the lesson. And then I would ask, so what was it about the lesson that you didn't enjoy, and what would you like to include in the lesson to make you enjoy it a bit more? And it's reciprocal, so find a way to.
And it's just that whole thing of, it's not cut and paste one particular way that you approach anything when it comes to music.
Yeah, because I teach one-on-one, I teach groups, ensembles, and class. Mm-hmm. So very different approaches to all, One-on-one is fantastic because I can just zoom in and focus on that one individual, and they've got half an hour, 45 minutes, an hour that I could just work with them. Groups and ensembles, slightly different. You have to, you're working with more than one or two people, students, and given the same amount of attention, and they want to walk out of that lesson feeling like, I'm waiting for the next one.
Yeah.
Classroom, a whole different kettle of fish altogether. I don't think I want to talk about classroom.
That's cat wrangling at that point. Once Grace has lovingly nurtured these children, Tim, they end up with you in a more sort of streamlined, focused sort of classroom or teaching environment. What's that like for you? What do you wish to sort of impart on those students?
Well, in terms of the songwriting, creative songwriting stuff I do at the uni I work at, it's my main overarching message is just fucking mean it, because especially once they get to that age of they're all adults, so they've learned a lot of the basics, and we do go through all the principles of songwriting and how chords can work together and how to write melodies and all that stuff. But at the end of the day, I think as a songwriter, your relationship with music is different to how other musicians relate to music, in that you're kind of just wanting to learn what you need to know in order to get a song done. It's less about honing crafts as you are just kind of like blagging your way through multiple crafts at once to get a story across or get and there's that storytelling aspect of it that you don't get as when you're just playing an instrument. You can tell a story musically, but there's the lyrical element of it. So I just think, just mean it. Just actually, if you don't feel like you want to write a really great song, and you feel like, you need to feel like it's kind of like your drive or your purpose is to write great songs, I would hope, and it's hard to, you can't just force a sense of purpose into a human, but letting them know that the good stuff comes when you're there is, I think, the main point. It's not really something you can pretend or fake.
Yeah.
I find that, sorry to cut you there, Tim, for a moment. I found that, just going back to this question, when we have school concerts, for example, the thing that they do often is to get students to find a cover song to perform at the school concerts. It's what we do. But what I've been doing over the years is encouraging certain students to write their own songs to perform. And I found that has drastically changed their attitude towards music. They love music. They go, I can actually write a song. I'm like, you can write a basic, this basic structure of a song, and that brings me a lot of joy seeing that they wrote it. I have to guide them with chords. But if they play a second instrument, piano, guitar, I make them actually play the second instrument at the concert.
Yeah, and there's
sing.
there's that real difference between having the cover or an interpretation of something, or doing like what you're saying, Tim, and just like to actually mean it and to like have intent behind or purpose behind what it is that you're actually performing.
Absolutely. And there's a sense of pride for the student seeing their name on the concert booklet, original song by so-and-so.
You're planting the
So much more
seeds,
creative.
Grace.
So much more creative, yeah.
Speaking of, the final song that we are going to hear this evening, or whenever you're watching this video, 'cause it's on the internet and it exists in a vacuum,
Never-ending evening.
It's never ending. It's one from you folks. It's Woman. Do you want to tell us a little bit about this? And then we'll
Yes,
jump
a
in.
little bit about Woman. So the title of the third album is Femme, Woman, and Femme means woman. And I just thought recording and releasing a third album at a mature stage of my career, our career, and for me, most importantly, it was important for me to write a song about that representation of being a woman, an artist, a woman, but also a celebration and an acknowledgement of what women have contributed towards, the community, family, the society, and for the betterment of the community, society, and the family, and what they're still contributing today, and how that's very important. And I come from a matriarch society, as I always say. I'm surrounded by some amazing, strong women, and it was just really an important timing to dedicate that album, for my grandmother, my mother, and the aunties, the sister, and yes, so important. So it is a celebration of womanhood. Yeah.
Awesome, when you're ready.
Okay. And it's in English, this one. Yeah. Woman, you don't have to cry no more. If you throw your troubles out the door, spread your wings and fly. You'll make a difference. You were born to shine, 'cause you are a woman. So take control and make a stand. Nurture your soul and bless the land. Learn to respect yourself before anybody else. Preserve your identity. Take pride, have some dignity. Hold your head up high, set your spirit free. Spread your wings and fly. You'll make a difference, yes you will. You were born to shine, 'cause you are a woman. Life is not a masquerade. You choose to love, you choose to hate. While you keep changing your love disguise, you have full authority to control your destiny. Woman, your beauty lies on the inside. Don't ever let nobody put you down. You should know when to spread your love around. Show your strength and smile. You'll make a difference, yes you will. You are so divine, 'cause you are a woman. You are a woman. Life is not a masquerade. You choose to love, you choose to hate. Why you keep changing your love disguise? You have full authority to control your destiny. Woman, your beauty lies on the inside. Life is not a masquerade. You choose to love, you choose to hate. Why you keep changing your love disguise? You have full authority to control your destiny. Woman, your beauty lies on the inside. Oh, oh. Don't you ever feel ashamed? You do not deserve the pain. Do not put up with the blame. You're a woman. Don't you ever feel ashamed? You do not deserve the pain. Do not put up with the blame. You're a woman. Don't you ever feel ashamed? You do not deserve the pain. You're a woman. Don't you ever feel ashamed? You do not deserve the pain. You're a woman.
Sick.
Thank you. Jamie Sell.
That concludes the APRA AMCOS Songwriter Speaks. Thank you so much to Jamie and to Grace and to Tim. Thank you, folks.
Yes.
Thank you.
Also, thank you to Cam, Mike and Annie who have shot and recorded all of this, and to APRA as well for having us. We'll see you next time.
Yeah.